Hello guys, how are you? This is the second session of the free project management professional training. I welcome all of you and I hope that you learn your desired knowledge and skills from this video. Yesterday we had a very amazing session and we got a lot of interesting questions from our participants. Before we go further in this training and we start learning today's concept, we need to revise the previous lecture. So let's start. Yesterday, this was the agenda of the presentation. We learned about the projects, programs, and portfolio. We also saw the difference between these three, and then we learned why projects are initiated and why they are closed. We also saw OPM and organizational structure. With this we also learned about the different professional certifications offered by the PMI, which is Project Management Institute, and USA based organization, which are offering different certifications such as CAPM, which is a first and very basic level certification in the project management, and any person who has very little knowledge or little experience in project management, this certification is recommended. Then we have PMP, which require 3 years of professional experience, risk management professional certification, Agile certification, scheduling certification, business analytics certification, portfolio management, and program management certification. These are the different high-level certifications offered by the PMI. With this, some micro credentials are also offered by the PMI. Eligibility criteria for PMP was to 4-year degree and 3 years of project management experience. And if you don't have this and you have a secondary degree, then you must have 5 years of project management experience. We also saw the fee of project management professional exam and the definition of the project. Then we saw the difference between small projects and the mega projects. And we also had a small session in which we discussed if the given scenario is project or not. Then why the projects are initiated, the reason projects are introduced in the organization, and then we also saw the reason why the projects are closed. We also saw the hierarchical structure of the program and the difference between projects and program and the benefits of program management. We also saw the portfolio and the benefits of portfolio management. Then we saw the PMO, project management office, and its different types. Now coming to the towards lecture, today's lecture, we'll see the stakeholder. Stakeholder, this is a very common concept in project management, and we have been going through this concept over and over. In the last video, we also see this terminology all over the lecture. So let's see who is the stakeholder. A stakeholder formal definition is any person or a group of person. It could be one person or it could be a whole organization that is impacted or can impact your project in a positive or negative way. That it means that he or she or the organization can impact your project objective, the achievement of the project objective. It means the success of the project. So it could be anyone. So it is the stakeholders are very important in your project. So as a project manager, it is your responsibility to not to ignore any project stakeholder. If the project stakeholder is ignored, it means that it or he or she can create a lot of problem for the project in the coming years. So that is very important responsibility of the project team and the project manager to identify all the stakeholder, and that is why the stakeholder is placed as a knowledge area in project management. Stakeholder management is a very important knowledge area of the project management. So for the satisfaction of the stakeholder, the main tool that is used is communication. So all the stakeholders are satisfied through the proper communication. That is why the communication skills of project management are very important. So our project manager must have good communication skills so that he can satisfy the project stakeholder with the good communication strategies and the communication interpersonal skills. A project manager can convert a negative stakeholder into a project positive stakeholder. It means that a person or an organization who is opposing your project, with a good communication skills, he can be converted into the sportive stakeholder. So everyone in a project is stakeholder. The main stakeholders are your project sponsor, your project manager, the family of the project manager, the project organization, any department of the project organization, your competitors, and the project regulatory organizations such as government agencies, which can impose some law or regulatory requirement on your project. So these are all stakeholders. So we will explore all the techniques and tools and techniques that can be used to manage your stakeholder in the further session of the project management. Organization structure, project are always executed in a business environment. any project that is being run or executed is not a single project. It is always interrelated to other project, as it always have some constraint. It always have some link to the other factors, such as the human resource, such as the machinery, such as the business environment or the economy of the country. So that is very important to understand the organization structure. So the organization structure, the type of the organization structure directly affects the project. If the organization structure is supportive, it means that the projectized organization structure, then the project will be executed in a smooth manner. Otherwise, if the project is executed or run in an operational organization, it means that the organization has never run a project and it mostly relies on its operation for the revenues. Then it would be very difficult for the employees to execute that project, because the employees don't have the relevant experience to execute the project. Also, the employees don't understand the dynamics of the project management, so they will be executing the project management in a operational management way. So why learning a organization structure is very important? It's because of two reasons. Because it gives the authority, who has the authority in which type of the organization structure. That is very important concept, and the pros and cons of each type. So there are three types of the organization. First is functional, the second is projectized, and third is the matrix. The matrix type is further divided into three types. That is another concept. The functional organizations are the organization which relies mostly on the operation. They seldom execute the project, and they mostly have the operational team. That is that is their expertise in the operational. For example, the banking industry, they are the operational department. They are the operational functional organization. They don't execute any project frequently. On the other hand, the construction vendors, they are the they're the projectized organization. They relies on the projects for them, for the earning of their income. So that is the main difference between functional organization and the projectized organization. If any project occur in functional organization, that will be executed by the relevant department. So in functional organization, we mostly see the department. The functional organization divided in department. So there is a finance department, there is a procurement department, there is a HR department. So this is a functional organization. In functional organization, the departments are there. So if you find a department in an organization, you can easily know that it is a functional organization. On the other hand, you don't see any department in the projectized organization, and if you see both in an organization, then it's a matrix organization. It's not a functional and not a projectized organization. It's a matrix organization. So if any project is run in the functional organization, then that project will be head or supervised by the relevant department. If the project is about finance, then that will be supervised or executed by the finance department. Okay, so that is the main difference between functional and the projectized organization. The pros and cons of this structure type of the structure. First, it is in this type of the organization, it is easier to manage the things, because the people have the operational experience. They know the operational dynamics, so that is very easy to manage the functional organization. And the second thing is that clarity about the job description. The team members exactly know where they should report and who is their supervisor. And the third benefit is that their organization is grouped with respect to the specialty. So finance department, they have all the specialists regarding finance. The operational department, they have all specialists regarding the operations. And HR department, they have all the specialists regarding the human resource. Similarly, the final of benefit of this organization is that they have a clear path. So a career path or promotion policy is there. If a person has entered in the finance department as an internee, then he knows that after the finishing of his internee period, he will be promoted as a trainee, and after the training period, he will be promoted as a assistant finance officer and so on. And he can reach at the head of the finance department after 20 or 50 years. So that is the main clear path of promotion in the finance in the functional organization. Disadvantage: people are more about concerned about their functionality or the operational work. They don't focus on the project work, and they don't have any clear path in the project management. It means that if a person wants to switch his career to the project management, that would be very difficult for him. And the final project manager, if any project manager, first, there is no project manager in the functional organization, but if there is a project manager, then he would have zero authority in the organization. Projectized organization, it means the whole organization is grouped with respect to the projects. If there are three projects, one is construction project, the second is IT project, and third is a cloud project, then all the projects will have their own team, their own specialist people in their projects. Okay, so there is no else, there is no other department in the organization. So whole organization relies on the project. The whole project has its own team, and after the project is complete, the team is dispersed. It means that when the organization get a project, they start hiring the people on project basis, and when the project is complete, the people are removed from the organization. And that is, there is a pros and cons of this type, because you always see that in a projectized environment, or in any job with a projectized contract, there is a high salary. Okay, so project people are always paid more than the operational people, because they have job uncertainty. They know that after the project is finished, we will not be paid by the organization, we will have no security from the organization. So that is why they are paid more than the operational people. Advantage: efficient project management, because people have experience in project management, people are working in the project management industry, so that is why their project management is very efficient. And then the second is loyalty. When the people knows that their job is directly, or their contract is directly related to the success of the project, then they are loyal to the project, because after the completion of the project, they will be looking for new job, and that new job will be given to them based on their previous success or failure. So if this project is failure, then obviously then future job will be impacted. So that is why they are loyal to the project. So that is very important aspect of the projectized environment. Then the third is communication. Communication is very easier, because people know the dynamics of the project. They know how important it is for the project to be successful, and they know the criticality of the good communication in the project. So that is why they are very effective communicator in the project environment. The disadvantage: people have no home, but their job is removed, their future is gone after the project is finished. So that is why they have no job security in the projectized environment, but they are paid more as compared to the functional people. The second, lack of specialization in discipline. So it would be possible that a person who worked as a procurement officer in the previous project is working as a finance officer in this project. They also, in a projectized environment, people perform different functionalities at a time. In a projectized environment, it is always preferred for to have a people with multiple skills. Okay, but on the other hand, in functional organization, people must have only one skill, and they must be master of that. It is not required that they have a lot of skill. And finally, ineffective use of resources. In cases, if the project manager is competent, then there could be ineffective use of resources. Matrix organization, as I already told you that if organization is working in both functional and operational, functional and project environment, then they are matrix organization. Okay, it means that the team is working under two supervisor, one project manager, and then the functional manager or the operational manager. Okay, there are three types of the matrix organization that I already told you. First is strong matrix, the second is the weak matrix, and the third is the balanced matrix. Strong matrix is the type of organization in which there is a project manager and operational manager, but project manager has more power than the operational manager. It means that the organization relies more on the project as compared to the functional department. In the weak matrix, project manager has less power than the functional manager. Okay, and in a balanced matrix, both have the equal power. It means that organization relies both on projects and operation equally. So what is the role of project manager in a weak matrix? So as we know that in a weak matrix, or project manager has very little or none authority in the organization. So that is why in a weak matrix, project manager role is always two. Either he's working as a project expeditor, or he's working as a project coordinator. Okay, there is a very little difference between expeditor and the project coordinator. One thing is that the project expeditor has no authority. It means that he cannot make any decision. His only duty is to just communicate the information from one point to the other point. On the other hand, the project coordinator has little more authority than the project expeditor. It means that he can make a decision of only 10 or 20%. Okay, so above that he cannot make any decision. But still, both have very low power in the organization. It also has some advantages and disadvantages. For example, advantage: they have a very visible project objective. They have improved project manager control. They have more support from functional area because there is a functional department in the organization. Their maximum utilization of resources. For example, if a person is working in a functional department and an organization gets a project, then he can be promoted to the project department, and after the project is completed, the resource can come back to his own department. Better coordination, more horizontal and vertical dissemination of information, and team member maintains a home that they have a job security. Okay, it's not like that the project is finished, you can go home. No, after the project is finished, they go back to the department and they continue their jobs. Disadvantage, their extra administration is required because there is one more than one boss. So it is very important to keep follow up if the team is working on your task and they have not stopped working on your task and started working on the other people other boss tasks. So that is very important. uh, Complexity in monitoring and control, resource allocation, because there is a fight between functional manager and project manager regarding the best resources. So that is very important, a disadvantage of this type of organization. Policies and procedure are very extensive. Operational department has their own policies. Project manager has their own policies. So it is very important. It is very difficult to get resources from one department to another department. Type matrix, it has nothing to do with the this type of the matrix. So if you see this terminology in the project management exam, this has nothing to do with the type of the organization. Okay, type matrix means that all people are working in a co-location. All people are there is no virtual team. That is the meaning of the type matrix. Okay, now the final two concept, that is enterprise environmental factors and organizational process asset. These two are the important factors, and these two you can understand them as the salt of the project management. Just like salt is the important ingredient of every dish. Similarly, these two factor, enterprise environmental factor and the organizational process assets, both of these two factors are compulsory and important part of every project management process. Okay, so you don't ignore these two processes. What is enterprise environmental factor? Enterprise environmental factor, just like we discussed, that projects never executed in a vacuum environment. They are always executed in an interrelated environment. So enterprise environmental factor is basically all the policies, all the procedures, all the internal and business environment that directly or indirectly impact your project. Okay, so if you are working as a project manager in organization A, it is quite possible that the organization A has very lenient policies about the projects, but you switch your job and join another company or organization B, then it is quite possible that organization B had different policies and procedure for the projects. Okay, they might not be that much lenient about the project. Okay? So that is basically the enterprise environmental factor. Similarly, if you're working in a small organization, it is quite possible that the communication channels are very low. Okay, you just report to the CEO of the project organization. But if you start working with a multinational company, there would be a very extensive and the long hierarchy, and you need to maintain that chain of command. So that is very important factor also in the projectized environment. So enterprise environmental factors include all the internal and business environment, all the procedures, all the policies of particular organization in which you are working as a project manager. Also, the PMI project management information system is also very important. It is the methodology, it is the way, it is the software through which the organization stores the project information. Okay, if you're working in an organization A, it is quite possible that the organization A is using Microsoft Project as a software. Okay, for the management of the project. If you switch to another company, it is quite possible they are using another software such as Jira or the Monday.com or the ClickUp or the Primavera. So they could be using a different software. So that is another factor, important aspect of the enterprise environmental factor. So as a project manager, you must have the knowledge and the expertise level skill of the that particular software that is being used in the organization. Organizational process assets. Organizational process assets are the things that the companies have learned over the period of time. Every time you work in a project, every time a project is executed, it is not like that the project is finished, everything is burned. No, it is very important that you keep record and track of everything that you learned in that project, and for that a document is used. That document is called lesson learned document. Lesson learned document is part of OPA repository. Every organization have a repository. Repository contains all the templates, all the tools and techniques, all the lesson learned document that the organization have learned over the period of time. If an organization is executing a project for the past 20 years, it means that particular organization is more mature, or that particular organization is more experienced than other organization who just entered into the market. Also, it is very important because organizations should not rely on the human resources for their knowledge areas. If the organization invest in the human resources, and that particular human resources have all the knowledge, all the expertise of the previous experience, previous projects executed in the organization, that knowledge is gone when the project resource join another company and resign from this company. Okay, so that is why repository is very important, and that repository includes policies, procedures, and the lesson learned. That is very important document of the project. So as a project manager, you must know the importance of the lesson learned document. Lesson learned document is there for you, and you create that document. Why the project lesson learned documents are so important? Here is the important concept. So if you see that this is your current project, okay, so you are executing this project, but for the execution of this project you first need to plan that project. So for the planning you need some lesson learned. You don't need to plan that document, that project from zero or scratch. So your organization process assets are there for you. So you need to use the lesson learned from the previous projects in your organization, or sometime you get the help from other person, or other organization who are your friends or supportive. So that lesson learned document can also be helpful for you. So you use those lesson learned document to better plan your project, and once your project is planned and you start executing your project, your own project start creating lesson learned. So this is the lesson learned of your current project. So that project, that the current project is also creating its own repository of the lesson learned. So this lesson learned repository is also used in the current project. Okay, so it means that you should never collect lesson learned at the end of the project. The lesson learned must be collected, must be integrated, or every time, all the time throughout the project. One activity is completed, you document anything or any factor that you learn in that activity, and you go on with the other activities. So that is the creation of the lesson learned document. So this is how the lesson learned is creating a feedback loop. Your current project is creating its own lesson learned repository, and this lesson learned repository is helping you in your current project and in your current other projects as well. So this project lesson learned document is helpful to other project if other parallel projects are going on. So that could be helpful for those projects as well. And once the project is completed, it becomes the part of your organization process asset. It means it goes to the repository and it is available to the other future projects. So that is the importance of the lesson learned document. So this is how you create a lesson learned repository, and you get advantage from the lesson learned. Okay, now coming to the very important concept that the person asked in the previous session also, what is a project life cycle? A project life cycle is basically a series of progression of different phases through which a project goes throughout its life. Okay, from the first point where the concept of the inception of the project took place, to the last point where the project is closed, all the processes, all the phases the project has to go through is called the project life cycle. Okay, sometimes there is another concept here, that is product life cycle. Product life cycle is different from the project life cycle. Product life cycle is basically the product of the life of the product. So right when the product came into your mind, till the it is produced, and then it is introduced in the market, and when it consumed its all useful life and drawn out of the market, this is the product life cycle. Okay, for example, if we take example of the Nokia 3310, if the when the Nokia 3310 was conceptualized, and it was produced like in 90s, and then it was introduced in the market, and when it was drawn out of the market at the at the entry of the Android mobile phone, this is the life cycle of that particular product. Okay, so there are four types of the life cycle. The first is the waterfall, the second is the iterative, the third is the incremental, and the four is the adaptive or the agile. So main there are two, which is waterfall or traditional project management. Second, agile or adaptive project life cycle. Okay, so these are the two main life cycles. Okay, now waterfall, this is a traditional project management. Okay, the traditional project management, that it follows a hierarchy. There are five processes in project management. The first process is initiation, the second is planning, the third is execution, the fourth is monitoring and control, and fifth is the closing. These are the five processes of the project management. In waterfall methodology or waterfall life cycle, a project has to go through these five processes, and the project has to follow a sequence. First you need to initiate, then you need to plan, then you need to execute, and throughout all these three processes you need to monitor and control, and finally you need to close. These are the five processes, and in waterfall or traditional project management, a project has to go in a sequence. Okay, it cannot abide, or it cannot ignore that particular sequence. That is waterfall. Waterfall is the way that waterfall, it always go from higher level to the lower level. This is the main idea behind waterfall methodology. Waterfall is the old way of doing projects. It always demotivates the change because of the cost of the change. Okay, for example, the construction industry. In the construction industry, if you have built one floor of the house, then a project sponsor comes to you and he says, no, 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 I need another design in the first floor. Then obviously you cannot implement that change, because if you implement that change, you have to dismantle all the first floor and then you rebuild it. So you see the cost of change is very high in the traditional project management. That is why the changes are always demotivated in the traditional project management. The second is iterative. Iterative is basically the product is built in multiple iterations. So you run one iteration and you go to the sponsor. The sponsor says no, change this particular aspect, and you run another iteration, the multiple iteration. After the multiple iteration, you get the product. So we'll see the example of this. Then there is an incremental, and there is a this example for the better understanding of the iterative and incremental. So the final product, that is the fifth number, that is same in both iterative and incremental. The final product is same, but in iterative, you at stage number one, in iterative you complete the whole framework, you complete all the diagram, everything is 100% complete, and you go to the customer, and the customer told you to change the location of the hand must not be on the face, it should be on the other hand. So in the second iteration, the changes are incompensating and the product is more refined. In the third iteration, when the first second is approved, in the third iteration you embed some changes, and fourth and fifth you finally complete the iteration. In the first one, in the second one, incremental project management, you just complete a component of the complete product that is deliverable. You just work on the deliver, and that delivery is 100% complete. Okay, so you go by pieces and pieces, and each piece is 100% complete in the incremental. So that is the difference between iteration and incremental. Adaptive or agile. Agile or adaptive is basically the opposite of the traditional project management. The traditional project management demotivates the change, but agile project management motivates the change. They basically focuses on the business value or the customer value. They believes that a product it must be valuable to the customer, no matter how many changes you need to compensate in your product. Or that is the main methodology or mindset of the agile project management. So agile project management is the combination of iterative and incremental. So you can see that the processes are same. All the five processes: initiation, planning, execution, monitoring. All the five processes are same, but all the five processes are run again and again in each phase. First is a feasibility stage. All the five processes we run. In the second stage, initiation, all of. So this is the main methodology of the agile project management. In agile project management, the team size is less than the traditional project. Also, in the seventh edition of the PM book, which is the current edition of project management body of knowledge, this particular methodology, agile project management, has gained a lot of importance. And we in this training we will include all those changes in that are included in the agile project management. Now the processes, there are five processes: initiation, planning, execution, monitoring, controlling, that we already saw. Initiation, it is the first step. You can say that when the project is conceptualized, you need to materialize it. You need to sign a contract, internal agreement with the project manager, and that document is called project charter. So project charter is the output of the initiation. That is very small process, but it is very important process. If the project charter is not signed, it means that that project has no legal authority in the organization. No one is going to understand the project manager requirement. No one going to deal with project manager because he has no document in his hand. So that is why initiation is very important. The second concept is progressive elaboration. A progressive elaboration is the concept of learning with the passage of time. With the passage of time, you learn more and more, and when you learn more and more, you need to compensate that learning in your project planning. Okay, it could be possible that you planned 3 or 4 months ago, and that planning was 100% accurate or 100% complete. But after 3 months, the circumstances have changed. The new regulation have entered into the market. The new component or the new software has have been released in the market. So you need to make part of that change, make part of your planning. That is progressive elaboration. Okay, so also being human, we have certain limitation. We don't know 100% about the future. We always have uncertainty, and that uncertainty is very important part of the project. So it is true that with experience you can overcome the uncertainty, but you cannot overcome uncertainty 100%. At the end, you are human. At the end, your knowledge is limited. At the end, you are working in a constrained environment. So that knowledge, that constrained environment is going to haunt you. So that is why you need to make progressive elaboration part of your project planning, and that is the learning and making your planning refined with the passage of time. High level planning is done in the initiation. Yes, for the project initiation, you need business case, which means the business need or the business gap. You for that the project was initiated. You need some evaluation of from the previous team. Planning phase, in this phase you plan all the project, you create all the document, you create a scope management plan, cost management plan, schedule management plan. All the plans are created in this particular phase. And the main methodology or main the mindset or the rule of thumb that is used in organization or in the industries, that your planning must be 30% of your project size. Okay, if your project is of, let's say, 12 month, then you must spend 4 month in the planning. Okay, that 4 month planning will save you from the troubles in the next 8 months. So that is very important. Project execution is the process in which the real product is built, in which real execution physical work is built. So in the construction of a house, the real rooms will be built, real windows will be installed, etc., etc. So real product or deliverables are built in the project execution phase. Monitoring and control is the process which makes sure that the planning and execution they are same. Okay, so if you plan that you are going to spend $10 million in the next 10 months, so in monitoring and control you make sure that you the same amount of budget is spent and same amount of deliverables are produced in the next that particular period of time. So that is the main purpose of the monitoring and control. It helps to it involves measuring your performance against the baselines, which is your basically the planning document. It approving changes, adapting as per the change, including the recommending corrective action and preventive action and defect repairs. These are the three types of the monitoring and control output that we will study further in the monitoring and control portion. And finally the closing, when the deliverable are produced, when the product is finished, you need to go to the customer, and the customer need to run some tests and approve that particular output or the product. That is the closing phase. You get the approval from the customer of the product, and you release your team, and finally you integrate all the lesson learned and submit them into the project repository. So that is the closing phase. It also include tech transfer final product to those who will use it. It means the operational department, and get the feedback from the team. So that is the closing phase. So this is the summary of the all knowledge areas. So you can see that where you can see that the uh, initiation is the first phase, and that is very small in time. Okay, it means that it can only take 10 or 20 days. Okay, so it's a very small time phase. The planning, you can see that it is the maximum, but it keeps occurring all the time. Okay, that is progressive elaboration. Remember progressive elaboration. But the size of the planning is highest after the initiation is completed. Okay, and when the execution is started, the size of the planning keep reducing until it is zero. when the project is about to close. But you keep planning throughout the project. It doesn't mean that you just plan for the first 4 months and then you forget about the planning. No, you need to understand the concept of the progressive elaboration. Progressive elaboration means that you keep planning all the time, and throughout and you just when you start executing the project, you see that the maximum budget and maximum level of effort is spent in the execution, because in this phase the real products are developed. And when real products are developed, it means that the most of the budget and most of the resources are spent in that particular period of time, and it keeps occurring all the. And monitoring and control, you can see that it keeps occurring all the time from initiation till closing. The level of effort is low, but it keeps occurring all the time, and finally you see the closing. The level of effort of closing and initiation is approximately same. So this is the summary of all the five processes and how these five processes interact with each other. So this is the main concept that we needed to understand in this session. So any question, please do comment. Also, I will be available in the comment section. Please do leave your comment and please do subscribe, because your subscription will really help us. We really need your help for this for the maintenance of this good effort for your learning, and we are not charging anything. So that is very important request from you, and in the next week we'll upload the same lecture. So thank you and best of luck.